So, if anyone stuck around after my Crystal Pepsi story that ended the last part, we're going to start this part with something different. Why a good director knows what their canvas is. I discussed this a bit in Jurassic Park. Perhaps I should make a separate video on this topic for discussions like these. But it really bears repeating here. The aspect ratio of a film is important. It refers to how tall is the screen compared to how wide it is. The larger the number, the more it's relying on horizontal space, and the closer the number gets to 1, the more it's making use of vertical space. Typically, there are 3 of them in film. The Academy is 1.37 to 1, or comparable to an old-fashioned television set, which was the primary aspect ratio used in film until around 1953. After that, the ratio widened to 1.85 to 1 and became the new standard. 2.35, 2.39, and 2.40 to 1 are generally treated as being the same. I will refer to them as 2.39 for simplicity. 2.39 is referred to as the most cinematic and is often chosen for that reason, but a good director and or cinematographer should pick it if it serves the film, not because you want the shape of your canvas to compensate for your shortcomings in using your canvas. I had brought it up with Jurassic Park to show why Steven Spielberg chose it for the film, even though there's lots of action and peril in that movie. Again, many say action means 2.39, but that works if your action is mostly on a horizontal. You have to think about what you're working with. I made the point at the time about how even with the boxy Academy ratio, Orson Welles knew how to use his space very well, even thinking outside of limitations that came with a mindset where actors came from being on stages. Instead, Welles would have his people enter scenes from the back rather than from the sides. Don't be like the dipshit I saw in one forum who said, stick with 2.35 to 1. I don't want films to look like it was shot for a TV show. If you can't make your work look like a film unless you make it really wide, the problem isn't the tool, it's the user. I will die on the hill that says, despite being a TV show, Breaking Bad looks a lot more cinematic in its 1.85 than many films in 2.39, because that was shot by someone who understood their art form and not by someone hoping a wider box would make them look like a professional. Now, of course, I'm not criticizing 2.39. It's a valuable tool used to great effect in many works by directors and cinematographers who know what they're doing. Spielberg used that for Jaws, and he used 1.85 for Jurassic Park, because again, he knew the canvas that he was working with. Tim Burton usually goes with 1.85, though it does depend upon the work again. Mars Attacks and Planet of the Apes, for example, were in 2.39 because there was much more need for horizontal space than for vertical space in those films. Whereas here, as you can see, the enormity of the factory, just like the enormity of Spielberg's dinosaurs, requires more vertical canvas space. You show this in 2.39, and you'll either not capture enough of it to show the scale, or you'll have to pull back so much that it becomes diminished. Either way, it undermines what you're trying to actually convey, the hugeness of it, because you've chosen a format that doesn't show height. 1.85 also allows for more intimacy. It's why Burton did his Batman films in 1.85 as well, even though, as comic book films, you would think that the action-friendly 2.39 would be called for. But it not only captured the Gotham cityscape more, but put you more into the action involving its lone hero, and also allowed the audience to feel closer to the main characters in the more personal scenes. Even though Charlie and the Chocolate Factory has more razzmatazz to it than Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, both nevertheless use the same aspect ratio. As the film goes on, you'll see how this film uses its vertical space, especially inside the wondrous factory. Okay, with that, let's continue part 2. Everyone is gathered and on orders through the loudspeaker are permitted to finally come through the gates of Wonka's factory, to come in and see everything, including a special animatronic show in order to welcome everybody. Well, I'm almost certain that won't happen to the children. Wonka is thrilled with the finale and then introduces himself to the visitors.
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
It's a wonder this man can crap without passing out from anxiety. He leads them inside like they're there to give him a tax audit, having apparently forgotten he made a rather huge deal of getting them to come here, and is now put off that they're actually here. You did ask for children, Mr. Wonka. Yes, but I assumed they would be ideal children, perfect spheres of uniform density.
Parents.
Yeah, moms and dads. Dad? Papa?
If you want to tell the difference, Gene Wilder's Wonka is a mad genius, and Johnny Depp's Wonka is a mad genius. As we get a sign that the other four kids are all bastards, Wonka leads them into the miraculous place, the chocolate room, filled with all kinds of things you can eat. But first he shows off the chocolate waterfall, the only one in the world, though admittedly I can see Elon Musk installing one any day now.
And you like my meadow? Try some of my grass.
Cheech and Chong and the Chocolate Factory.
Son.
It's a nice coat. I understand his partner in his chemical engineering business has one just like it. Everyone helps themselves, but Augustus stumbles through the place like a toddler Godzilla, which makes this a perfect time to introduce the Oompa Loompas, hard at work getting the candy job done. Mr. TV denies the existence of Loompa Land, but a flashback clearly shows Wonka in the jungles of Loompa Land. That sounded more Vietnam War movie-like than I meant. The Wangdoodlers are moving in from the north. Snarls-wanglers are coming up the delta, and everywhere traps by the hornswagglers. Actually, I never realized how much overlap there is between Willy Wonka and Apocalypse Now. Did they say why, Joe? Why they want to shut down my chocolate factory? They told me that you had gone totally insane, and that your methods were unsound. Are my methods unsound? I don't see any method at all, sir. I expected someone like you. What did you expect? Are you one of those spies come to steal my chocolate secrets? I'm a soldier. You're neither. You're an errand boy, sent by grocery clerks to collect a bill. See, I don't just do crotchety old men and Hitler jokes, and I completely passed over the low-hanging fruit of Wang Doodle. Anyway, Wonka discovers a village of the Oompa Loompas there, and since they love cocoa beans, and he runs a chocolate factory where there are no dangerous predators, yet, they came to live there and be paid in cocoa beans for their labor making candy. Sweet, delicious chocolate. I'd skip that spot, though. Augustus is quickly sucked up into the pipe, gets stuck, and that convinces the Oompa Loompas they should sing about this.
Augustus Gloop, the great bakery nincompoop. Augustus Gloop, so big and vile, so greedy, foul, and infantile.
There aren't many contests where the grand prize is being trapped in a tube while a chorus of dwarves sing about how much you're a prick. Though I think it would only improve the show Big Brother. Imagine telling your therapist, I had a dream where I was squeezed into a long phallic shape and tiny identical men were synchronized swimming around my mighty shaft that was plunged into a pool of fudge. Anything else? Yes, and then Dwayne Johnson flew to my rescue on a giant cigar. Mrs. Gloop will get a chance to get him out of the fudge room. Now that that's sorted, on with the tour, which involves this Viking boat. On the way, Wonka shares some chocolate, with a ladle, like a civilized human being, but repeats the stuff about the waterfall. When pointed out that he's repeating himself, he turns on the children, insulting them for being short. There's a rather bold move for a man who employs a race of dwarves that he pays entirely in lodging and beans. The mention of childhood triggers Willy Wonka's personal flashback on Halloween, when we learn his father was a dentist.
Now, let's see what the damage is this year, shall we?
This would be bad even if your dad wasn't Dracula.
I could try a piece.
Really? But do I take a chance?
Cast it into the fire!
Now, given that the original film's boat ride is famous for how unsettling it is, Tim Burton has one of two choices: top that, or go in a different direction. Thankfully, he chooses to instead make it more of a wild water ride, rather than giving us crucifixions or melting faces or anything like that. Yeah, this is the second time we're seeing it, and it doesn't seem any better than the first.
For your information, little girl, whipped cream isn't whipped cream at all unless it's been whipped with whips.
The dark side of the dairy industry. He decides to take a stop at the inventing room, where all kinds of things are being worked on, like the famous everlasting gobstopper.
All those hip, jazzy, super cool, neat, keen, and groovy cats? It's in the fridge, Daddy-O. Are you hep to the jive? Can you dig what I'm laying down? I knew that you could. Slide me some skin. So, brother?
Some things, though, aren't really cut out to be everlasting. What we get from Wonka here is a sense that, while he's uncomfortable about having these people around, at the same time he's incredibly excited to share what he's done with others. It's not even about showing off. He's just so delighted by candy. He so loves candy that he wants others to join in with that.
You mean that's it?
Dude, why are you even here? You don't like chocolate and you hate everyone. It's like someone inserted Grandpa George's prequel right into the middle of the movie. The gum is a full 3-course dinner, so Violet wants to try it.
Sounds like my kind of gum.
I'd rather you didn't. There's still one or two things that...
You should have maybe led with that instead of letting her collect it from the dispenser. She puts it in despite Wonka's warning, and when she starts praising it, tells her she should spit it out. Well, shock of shocks, she doesn't listen. No one ever listens. Soon, she starts slowly turning purple and then blimping up.
I'm terribly sorry.
Do you know that if is the middle word in life? If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you.
No, I can't. I'm a little man. I'm a little man.
If I ruin either this film or Apocalypse Now, I feel I've done my job. Violet really goes full blueberry here, to the point that her head and limbs are dimples in her big round body.
But I can't have a blueberry as a daughter. How is she supposed to compete?
At least Mom has her priorities in line. Yeah, she could be deformed for life. Yeah, what about my problems? Well, the Oompa Loompas come to sing about this. I have to say, treating my body as a bouncy castle is really robbing me of my dignity. Well, she's going to need to be juiced.
I want you to roll Miss Beauregard into the boat and take her along to the juicing room at once, okay?
And transmission.
Juicing room? What are they going to do to her there?
They're going to squeeze her, like a little pimple.
The horror? The horror.